That's just the message to ladies in their 30s, 40s. They're tired of playing games. They just want to be upfront and be honest. And I get it. And it makes sense, except don't do it. You do have to play a game.
But you don't need to say it as a woman. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to be like, I'm looking for a serious relationship. Like, because you can also turn a hoe into a husband.
Yeah, just got to do the right tactic. Get him confused, show him a boob, get him confused, flashbang. He's like, what the hell is going on? What happened here?
Exactly.
Like,
Then he's too far in to know what even happened. And here we are. Then you get the ring, ladies.
Beyond the perfect we discover, through our flaws we complete each other. Better than perfect we stay, through every fault we find our way.
Welcome back to the Better Than Perfect podcast, where every week we show you how two
Imperfect people helping each other grow equals one better than perfect relationship. And we also finish each other's sentences,
That's right.
I guess, too.
I got stuck on the share or show you. We share with you, we show you. Which, I mean,
same but different.
But which sounds better? I don't know. Is it like we
think
show
we
you? We
say
share.
show you.
Oh, we show. Yeah, we show you. That's what it's supposed to be. That's what I said.
Actually, I have no idea what
no,
it
show you makes
officially
sense.
is.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I just said.
It could be
like
officially
5
whatever we
seconds
want
ago,
it to be. So
That's true.
we get to choose. So, so we actually did have something that was kind of small talky to talk about today, which was the Love Is Blind new season that we're watching.
We're gonna have to start live streaming our reactions.
maybe
to
next-
Love Is Blind.
Yeah.
next season. 'Cause
Next season,
we
that'd
didn't
be-
do it this season.
Yeah.
We
I
were
think
kind of
that'd be-
behind at first. Now
Yeah.
we're up to date, but
But it's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting show.
I mean, we've already talked about this, but it's just hard because I don't feel like any of them are really there for the right reasons anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't seem.
But it's fun to watch different people interact and see how they
Yeah.
handle things and how it's just like a human psychology kind of thing where you're like, oh, that's interesting. Even though it's edited and all of these things, but it is still interesting, especially because like I know that the Chelsea girl has been getting a lot of hate on the internet.
Oh yeah, that's a good.
But
yeah.
it's like, yeah, is she a little insecure? Sure.
Yeah.
But he's, whatever his name is, Jimmy, is not
Jim-
really making her feel secure.
Right,
So it's
exactly,
like
yeah.
making it worse. So it seems extreme. But what people aren't like validating is that Jimmy is perpetuating this.
Yeah.
With all with the way he acts, the way he responds, having girlfriends that he's banged before, like
Yeah.
the list could go on. But it's
Yeah.
just funny how like even people's reaction to it, like they don't even see also the things that he's doing
Right.
to make her like further into this.
And it kind of goes to the point that you're making, that women acting in a way that's needy or like dependent on a man or whatever, that a lot of people attack women for doing that.
Right.
And again, I mean, she's like the insecurity is not exactly the same thing, but I mean, he had called her clingy in the episode, and that's
Right.
like, not cool at all.
And then
but
like you said, like the people are more focused on what she's doing
yeah.
than what he's doing. When it's they're both doing it, but it's like it makes her look so bad
Yeah.
that people want to focus on that. But really, it's like she's just being a woman, and like she's responding to how he's reacting to her,
Yeah.
and now she looks like super insecure, and people are like, oh, this is horrible. And it's almost trying to like make women, like women are trying to make women harder and be
Right.
like,
Yeah.
why are you having these emotions? Like, why do you care? Let him go out and go drink with his girlfriend that he used to bang all the time. Like, what? No, you don't
Exactly.
have to be a pick-me girl where you're like, oh, I'm the cool girlfriend. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
go out with your girlfriends and drink. It's like, do you care
Yeah.
if it's
Exactly.
like that? Like, I don't know. Like,
No,
you don't
I
have to
agree.
be like going to the extreme, but everybody has some form of insecurities. And I think hers are just being heightened because he's not treating her properly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that their whole relation. I think theirs is the best example from the show. Just like what a lot of things we talk about too, like conflict resolution too, because their conflicts, like her problems of her emotional hurts, and then she reacts in a way that's pretty disrespectful, calling him a liar and stuff like that, right? And then they meet up the next day and they make up and they say, I'm sorry, but they never actually resolve the underlying issue. So her feelings,
so it's still there.
Yeah, that never gets resolved, and then him, the way that she called him a liar and stuff,
feel safe.
Right. So neither of those things get resolved. So then they're like paving over the thing, and then it's just going to come back, and I think that was so important because that is just a great example for people that are watching that show. Is that's how you get out of the honeymoon phase. That's exactly how it happens. Is because you have conflicts, which are inevitable, and then the conflicts don't get resolved properly. So they get paved over.
Yeah.
And then that's called resentment. Grudges build over time. You start to actually not like the person you're with. You might even still be attracted to them, but you don't like them.
Yeah.
You might love them, but you don't like them. And when you don't like them, that's a problem.
Right.
So...
Yeah, I think Johnny and Amy are the only ones that should get married. Yeah. But even they have their own little things. But they at least seem to really like each other and respect each other and have fun with each other and, talk things out and handle things. So
yeah, but drop a comment if you'd like us to do a live stream of the next season. Well, if you're interested in it. But I think it's good. If you like this podcast and you like that show on Netflix because it's about relation. That's why we like it. So it's,
right, exactly.
Yeah. So, all right, I guess we should jump into the topic for today. So interesting thing. So some people were commenting, they were asking about, because we kind of didn't really talk about the 3-week abstinence thing that we went through.
Yeah.
So I thought a good topic for today, based on that, and we could talk about various other things as well, is sex.
Let's talk about sex.
It'll just be broad. Yeah. I'm sure we'll do other episodes where we talk about more specific, detailed things about sex, but or not.
No, our parents watch this.
But we'll just talk about it in terms of relationship, like the questions people have, a couple of tips, things like that. How to make it good. Like where does it fall in place in the relationship? How important it is. I think so. Yeah. So maybe we could start with the 3-week. Yeah, the question everyone's asking, like, why did we do that? What was the outcome? What did you believe about it?
Well, I guess we got to go back to kind of ish why we did it.
Yeah.
So it's like when we first got together, like you had some things from your past that you were concerned about, and you talked to me about those, and I kind of took it as like I was doing something wrong, which isn't what you were saying,
right,
but I got kind of afraid and kind of internalized that. And then even though we had talked about it, like I was still kind of like putting pressure on myself in regards to some of those things. And so I had felt that, and then you were feeling your type of way, which I'll let you explain for yourself. But like you had your things that you were dealing with, and so we were kind of stuck. Like I think we did talk about that we were in a gridlock. So it was like how the things that I was putting on myself, even though that wasn't the reality,
right,
had me stuck. And then the things that you were going through, because we were both going through something from each side at a time, we were kind of like stuck.
And the weird thing about it, I'll add to it, is that we weren't stuck in the sense that like
we weren't being intimate or whatever.
Yeah, our sex life was still beyond fantastic. It was just that we were stuck in our own like roadblocks to like just different hangups or things that we emotional type
other part of it.
Yeah,
like not the actual intimacy part,
right?
But
exactly.
More of like I'll talk about mine because I want to talk about yours. Yeah. Like, am I engaging in this enough that he wants? Like, is it this way enough for him? Like, is he going to be upset if I, don't feel very well and don't really want to do it tonight? Like those were some of my like things that I was putting on myself. Yeah. Right. And then I didn't also want to like upset you because I care about you, not because I'm like people pleasing you, but because I care about, you and what you want, but at the same time, like, I need to talk about what I'm going through. So it was just like a really tough place.
Yeah.
And so we decided to, like, you know nothing for 3 weeks, even though there was one time where there was something that happened.
Technically didn't cross the line, but
I think technically it did cross the line, but we gave ourselves
a little grace,
a pass on that.
I mean, hey, we did pretty damn good, especially considering what our normal
schedule is.
Yeah,
yes, I agree.
Which is pretty good. Yeah, so I think we did good. But yeah, and to talk to what you're saying, like on my side of it, obviously, and this is a common thing, I think, that a lot of couples will relate to the frequency type of issue and the pressures, and even like you said, it wasn't something that I was putting on you. It was something that we had a doc a long time ago, and you were putting on yourself at that point. But it still affected, because then for me, I didn't feel the natural desire as much, because obviously in the case when you're thinking about stressing about these things, then it's just not seeming to come from a natural place.
Right.
And so we wanted to get back to like, okay, let's take a hiatus for 3 weeks for 2 reasons. One, to get back to just a natural, right? So like break any kind of patterns of whatever. And then 2, I think also to make it clear also that, I think every woman has the insecurity that a guy, like if he doesn't get sex, then he's going to disappear. He's not going to love her anymore. And sometimes that's true. So just to make you feel completely confident about that, about me, because that's something that I wanted. And I was the one who came up with this idea, by the way, not, so just, I think because that was my primary thinking when I came up with the idea. But I think it was a good, I think it also brought out some conflicts as well. I think during the time, because I think sometimes maybe some conflicts are avoided when there is sex, because you don't want to mess up the sex that is going to happen that night. So you may not actually get into some of the conflicts that you should. And so it was actually good, because there was several things that we had to go through and discuss that ended up really, I think, bringing us closer together at the end of that. And I think, and then I think sometimes, and we don't really do this, but I think a lot of people also use sex as a sort of, you hear the angry sex,
they, like, reset everything.
Yeah, and that's
like wipe it away rather than resolving it.
Right, and that's exactly what we just talked about at the beginning. Is not a good thing to do ever. It's like it's good to have have the intimate after you've but after you've really really resolved the thing, not as a substitute for resolving the thing. So
yeah, it was a good like reset sort of thing, and a lot of it was on me, because you assured me multiple times, you're like, I love you, like it's not those things. But the reason you had the idea too was so that you could show me that you love me even without this thing. Like obviously we're not going to go totally without it by choice, but it's like, you wanted to show me in those 3 weeks that like your love for me didn't change.
Yeah.
Taking that part out, which like as a woman does make you feel good, because like you said, like sometimes like I don't feel like you love me just for that. But women know it's a very important thing to a man. And so you even offering that as like a solution to our problem, and then focusing on loving me rather than the intimate part, like was a big deal. And I think it really helped a lot. And I realized too that I don't use intimacy to be close to you in the way that you do. But when we didn't have it, I did realize that I didn't feel as close. Like we were still close.
Right. Yeah.
But we used that to be closer to each other.
Yeah.
And like without it, we could still be close, but
of course,
it's not the like spiritual experience that it is with it.
And I think that's something, and that's a common thing for men, is that as I've coached a lot of men and have read a lot of books on male psychology and whatnot in relationship, that men will tend to view sex as more of a closeness thing. And women don't realize that about men. And they don't necessarily see that. They're like, oh, there's other ways to be close. But then I think it's good to experience that to say, oh, actually, it does make a difference in the closeness, because when you're without it for a long time, then you can sort of feel how that is.
And there are still differences with men and women in regards to sex, because like we could have like a very emotional conversation and you're like ready to go because like you just said, like you want that closeness.
Right.
But as a woman, a lot of times it's like, I'm mentally still processing all this stuff. Yeah. It's very mental for women. So it's like if something's still going on, and that's also why when we were in the gridlock thing, like it didn't keep us from being intimate, but the mental talk in my head of like, oh, am I doing this enough? Like, am I going to upset him?
Right.
Like took away from the naturalness of it. So it's very mental for women.
Yeah.
And it's not so much for men. Like they could like flip a switch. They could be like crying 1 minute, 2 seconds later, they're like, you want to have sex? And you're like, what? Like women would be like, there's no way. Like there's no way a woman could be crying and then 2 seconds later be like, well, let's get it on. Like, you know, I mean, I'm not saying that it couldn't lead to that, but it's not a switch.
But it's not a switch. It's a process that.
Well, I mean, that's why it's so important for foreplay with women, because it's a process. Right. You can't just like be like, all right, let's do it, you know, and then try to stick it in 2 seconds later. It's like, that's not how it works.
And this is the thing that guys don't get about this, which is that when they hear that it's a process, they think it's a physical process, as in lubricating the equipment. That's true, but that's not what you're talking about,
right?
Because it's a revving up the engine, the mental process. So it's not just you can't solve this with KY.
Yeah,
like that doesn't
just put some lube on. Like no,
that doesn't solve it. But it's that process, and it's also, I think. You know, correct me if I'm speaking wrong, but I'll give my translation of what I've learned as a man about women. But is that it's a lot of times it's a day-long process, not just a 15 minutes, you know, prior to the event, and it's a lifelong process in the sense that it's about the connection of the relationship. All right. So it's almost like, actually now I'm filling in some blanks here. See if this makes sense. Try this theory on. Women, in order to have sex or to want to have sex, they have to have closeness in the relationship.
I would say so.
Sex brings closeness in a relationship to the man. It does, I think, for both, but more so like that. And so that's where you can also get at a standstill, is that someone's got to bend. You know, to a degree. So, or both can meet in the middle is a good thing. But I think that is the other part of it too. Is that it's like it's the state of the relationship has to be in a good place in order, not to say that you can't, you know, but in order for it to really be, you know, something that a woman is in the mood for. So,
right. Yeah. It takes a lot to get a woman in the mood. And even if she's trying to have some fun for the night, that is driven by something entirely different. Like that is driven by her just trying to find validation or feel a certain type of way, and because she's so down on herself and she doesn't have a partner.
Right.
But when you're in a relationship, it stems from the closeness. Like it's totally different. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like a one night stand is not about closeness. It's not about connection. It's not about like the romantic or whatever. It's about what she can get that feels like she's lacking in this like not best way. Cause it's kind of like numbing your feelings with alcohol. That's what like one night stands are for women. It's like, yes, for the night you'll feel better about yourself in some way. Right. But the second that that's done, you've lost it again.
It's interesting that you say feel better about yourself, not feel good or feel better, because the object of that is to feel better about yourself in that case, which is...
I mean, I'm just being real. Like, I know a lot of women won't say that, but like I could guess that a lot of women feel that way because that is what it is. Right. And, you know, at times when I've been at my lowest a long time ago, like I've made choices of getting attention from men, not because like I cared about that guy, but because I needed it for me. And that's not right. You know, like,
yeah, it's not good. No.
It's not healthy. It's not the right way to do it, but it will get you what you want temporarily. And that's why you have to work on yourself if you're in that situation, because you can never get it from men like that, like in those temporary situations. But in regards to like a relationship, it's about the connection. It's about the closeness. That's why, like, when I said, you know, when we didn't have it for 3 weeks, like we had never done that. So I didn't realize until we did that too, how it made me feel closer to you. Like I already knew that it made you feel closer to me.
Right. But
I didn't realize that it also did the same for me. Like not in the exact same way.
Yeah.
But
in a different,
like it does add a level of closeness. And I mean, you're literally connecting together.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. And so I didn't realize how much I connected with you and how much I valued that. Like, obviously I valued it.
Right. No, I know what
it's like you look at it in a different way. Like, it's not just about doing the things like and going through the motions. It's about this actual experience, which a lot of people talk about, you know, that it should be this experience. Like, it's going to have an effect on you and it should do that.
Right.
And even the like more shallow things, you don't think that's going to affect you, but it does, like in the wrong way, because you're getting these things that you want temporarily, but you know, when you wake up the next day, you also feel crappy because you just used somebody basically for this thing, and like it wasn't a meaningful and intimate experience.
Right. Exactly.
You know, even if it wasn't necessarily bad, it's not with someone that you care about. It's not with someone that you love. It's not with someone that means something to you.
Right.
So there is also this like kind of hangover after that of feeling bad.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, so... Well, and since we're kind of talking about the single part,
the question,
you know, someone reached out to me and said, when should women sleep with men, you know, that they're dating?
Yeah. That's a good question.
And, you know, I'm not saying if you have an amazing first date and you have a good connection that it couldn't organically lead to you on the first date.
Yeah.
I highly recommend not doing that.
Right.
Just because... you have to make a man work for it. Even if you really like him, even if you really want to have sex with him because you actually like him and you want that connection like I just talked about, it's best to wait at least a few dates in. Because also, too, you never know if he's going to switch up on you as a woman. And then now you've slept with this guy. And now he, unfortunately, like maybe you have had a connection and it was great for you, but he used you and now you feel bad about that or whatever.
Right.
So I would wait a few dates in. And also, I read this book about femininity. I can't remember I'm horrible with the title
it was
and
called
the authors. It's like the Feminine Revolution or something.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
And they talk about, I forget what word they used because it's kind of like different topics of traits that are feminine.
Yeah.
But they talked about this, like one of the authors had a professor and he would not really talk and he'd sit kind of in the back.
Yeah.
And, you know, people had to come ask him questions.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it made him more valuable because he wasn't just giving out the info. He wasn't just saying whatever he felt.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's not like you're playing a game, but you're withholding that because it means a lot to you.
Right.
And you know your worth as a woman, and you're not going to give that until the guy has proved to be the guy that you think he is.
Right.
And that he is like working towards you.
Exactly. Yeah.
I can't think of the word that they used, which like bothers me.
Oh, okay.
But it's essentially that thing, right? Like you're not giving this thing away right away.
Right.
And we kind of talked about it in other ways too. I mean, I think it's just a good way for women to operate, not like telling your whole life story on the first date. Not like, you know, giving everything away, creating some of that mystery, especially because men like a challenge, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Like, it used to bother me so much to hear men be like, if a girl sleeps with me on the first date, I don't like her anymore. I'm like, so if a girl gives you exactly what you want,
right,
you like her less. I'm like, make this make sense.
But the thing is, like, and I get it too, but but he's also being honest in the sense that there's something biological in him that makes him feel that way. It makes him want to try and get it on the first date, but it also makes him feel that she's not as valuable. And it's telling you something. It might be a ridiculous double standard. It might be, just sound just harsh to the ears, but there's truth in it in the sense that that's how men behave. So whether you like it or not, it's how men behave to a degree.
And when I heard it, honestly, it made me further into what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like if a guy's telling me that if you give him exactly what he wants, he likes you less.
Right.
That in no world makes me want to give it to him more. No. If anything, now you're going to wait 5 dates, 10 dates. Who knows?
Yeah, that'd be a stupid thing to say, but yeah.
I mean, but it does make you think. And I was just thinking about it. It's just like you have to kind of dangle the carrot in front of a man. Like you're the carrot. And like you can't give it to him right away. Because then he has all the things. Then he's going to go looking for something new and challenging. And if you give all your cards away, you have nothing.
Now, men are going to get upset, obviously at this, but I agree. And I'll tell you why. And a lot of people call me out and say, well, that's hypocritical. You literally were teaching guys how to pick up girls and how to get a girl into bed on the first night. And I'm like, yeah. And I'll still stand by that because as a guy, you go ahead. That should be your game plan. The woman's game plan should be to secure the commitment. The guy's game plan is to get the sex without having to give the commitment. The woman's game plan is to get the commitment, without having to get the sex. You know what I mean? Like, again, not that both don't enjoy or benefit from both. It's just it is a game and there's two forces, but it's a dance. It's a dance, right? Because you're going here, you're going there, and that's what makes it interesting. And that's where you figure out where you are through that thing. And you can't just bring the dance to the climax right away and just like there has to be some amount of.
Well, it's like a movie. If it was like 5 minutes in, it was like told you everything, and then it was like bye. It's like. Okay.
And it has nothing to do with double standards. And I mean, I will say this, right? Because I'm totally honest on this podcast. The more that a person has sex with a partner, a different partner, the harder they become, which is a masculine trait. So women who have more sex with different guys tend to become more masculine. Now, that's not an irreversible thing, and it doesn't mean they're bad or wrong or that we should shame them. That's not what I'm saying at all, right? What I'm saying is that it's in the benefit of you as a woman, not because society, what they think. Who cares what society thinks? That's not what this is about, okay? It's about you wanting to not become more hard and make it harder to access your femininity, which is your value and your gift that you have as a woman. So I think there's an element of that. Again, not to be used as judging, because guys ask me all the time. I get questions. So what if the woman's body count is so? And I'm like, you shouldn't. That doesn't matter. You don't judge someone by their past. You judge someone by who they are now. Now, is it true that their past can influence? Of course, and that's why I'm saying that the more that a woman sleeps with different guys, then obviously it creates a more hard or masculine. The same applies for a guy. And that's why that double standard does exist, because to some degree, a guy becoming more hard in that sense is good, but it can also become a detriment when that becomes too much.
Right.
Because too much of that, now a guy is too hard, he's too unfeeling, too cold, too uncaring. That's not a good trait either. So, but I do think that, if I am coaching guys, I'm telling them, here's how to seduce a woman. If I'm coaching a woman, I would say, hold on, do not sleep with a guy. Make him wait. Make him invest. That's your part of the game. It's like you got two different coaches for two different teams, right? And we're playing a game here. We're having a dance. And so, that I think the advice is sound to make him wait. And I do agree also with the exception, right? In the sense that, if it's just like the most magical thing in the world, and if it really is.
And you can tell he's invested and, things like that, which it is harder still. But I think that if it feels like a really good date and you guys really connected.
Yeah.
That's when I feel like a woman is having sex for the connection.
Right.
But I think along what you said is what makes her hard is that it's not about the connection when she's having sex like that. It's about her.
Right.
And it's about getting these things from the guy. And that's why there's this like numbness, this like hardness, because it's not about caring about this guy.
Right.
It's about caring about what she's looking for. And so that's what it is. But if you go on a really great date and you do feel connected to the guy and you feel like he's invested in you and like really interested in getting to know you, you guys maybe talked for hours and he's showing you like little cues that he's interested in you, then you are having sex for the connection on the first date. And that's what makes it different.
And it is almost like a second date or a third date. Like you spent the time, you know what I mean?
Of that, yeah.
And I think also that the thing to note about this too, which a lot of people just will not accept this truth, but it is true because we talked about it in a different way, right? You said that emotionally a man can just flip a switch and go to having sex. And but a woman, that's not the case, right? And so that also plays out when we say, when people don't like this truth, but sex does affect men and women differently. A man can have casual sex and not have, and again, it comes down to the hardness thing, but there's also more to it in the sense that the detriments on him are not as severe as a woman because she has to get into an emotional state for it to be in the right place. Otherwise, it's a violation of herself, right? If she's doing it just for an esteem boost, if there's not a true connection there.
Right.
And she knows it and she feels it and it does have a detrimental effect. And so that's why it's not a judgy
healing
thing.
Anything too.
Right.
You know, it's a Band-Aid. Like that's why I compared it to alcohol. Like people, when they drink alcohol and they go get drunk, they're not fixing any of their problems.
Right.
They're just numbing themselves. And that's what that is as well too. Like they're trying to fix themselves. They're like, oh, if I go home with this guy and he like, you know, looks at me and treats me well for the night and we do this, I'll feel better about myself because I'll feel wanted or whatever the thing that she's missing, she's trying to get.
Yeah.
But it's temporary.
Yeah.
And what she doesn't realize is that if she gives herself those things or she meets somebody who helps her realize those things and they're in a relationship, that will actually heal her and get her to a place where she doesn't need even the person she's with's validation, but she'll want it because she has that connection and she'll want to feel wanted by someone that she actually cares about, not some guy she found on a dating app or at a bar for the night.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And there's all kinds of stuff that people will say about pair bonding and stuff like that. And there's some truth to some of these things, but they use them as weapons in order to shame people.
Yeah.
And that doesn't solve any problems. It doesn't, like, it's all about...
Because nobody is broken beyond repair.
Right.
Nobody is.
Because I tell guys all the time about the body count thing. I'm like, look, there was a period of time where you were a dork, where you were like a virgin, a dorky virgin. Okay. And maybe you're, a stud now, whatever. You want a woman to judge you by your past and be like, oh, well, this guy used to be a nerd. So no, thanks. I'll pass. Like he's just, no, you wouldn't want to be judged by you. You want to be judged by who you are now. Right. And you can look at someone's past. Obviously, if someone's been a junkie in their past, you might want to like say, well, let me double check. Let me make sure before. I'm not just going to trust that they're clean and they're not, that their life has changed around. So yeah. So
you take it into consideration, but you don't use it to base everything on the now.
But Mike's Killer Bread. I mean, everybody's buying Mike's Killer Bread. Mike,
where's this coming
Mike's
from?
a killer. Mike went to prison for like 20 years, came out, made bread. So like you're buying.
Is that real though?
I don't think he killed people. It's called Mike's Killer Bread. But he
actually went to jail.
He did go to jail. He sold the brand, but Mike's Killer Bread came from literally a guy that went to prison for 20 years or whatever for some hard crimes. It was violent crimes for sure. And then he came out and he started.
He makes some good bread.
Yeah, but people, they forgave him in order to eat their sandwiches. So, it's like you can't just keep on holding people's past against them and think that they're a broken person. No one wants that. And no one will ever respond to that message. No one will ever listen to that message and say, you're right. I'm broken beyond repair. And now I agree with you. And so if you're trying to push that message, it's never going to work. So,
I agree.
But yeah, I don't want to beat a dead horse on this topic.
Well, I had to throw that in.
Yeah. No, that was good. It's good. But Where else? What else we're going? So the first date thing.
Yeah, like not.
Yeah, when should you have sex?
I wouldn't. I would. If you really trying to get it in, you can wait.
Yeah.
A few dates, but you have to have a guy invest in you as a woman, because you don't know what the truth is, unfortunately, with a lot of guys. You go on a great first date, you never hear from him the next day. And then you're like, what? And there's nothing even inherently wrong, but maybe they were dating a bunch of other women and they went off with someone else. So it's like,
or they're really good. They're good at seducing, and like you.
That's true. Or maybe it was just a game for him. So it's like, it just makes sense for any woman to have a guy invest.
Yeah. That makes sense.
In you before you do those things. Like I said, that's why some women have to like a date minimum. I'm not saying necessarily have a date minimum. Like I said, I would say 3 dates is kind of like a general rule, but like you'll know.
Yeah, you can't.
That's why if it's the first date and it feels though like you've been on 3 already and you feel the connection and you want to go ahead for it, I'm not saying don't do that. And I'm not saying that there aren't people out there who are married and happy who had sex on the first date.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, if that's the person for you, he's going to wait 3 dates.
Yeah.
And
just don't be stupid and tell guys you have a 3 date.
Yes, because then he's like, all right,
okay,
then I just 1, 2, 3.
It's like, all right, we're going to McDonald's and then we're going to go to Burger King and now we're going to go.
Don't tell him. He'll be like, it's technically
and then we're going to go
days.
to Denny's to get a grand slam.
A home run. Yeah, no. But, don't ever tell him. Just have it as like your rule. And like also it's like, if you have respect for yourself, which I know women do, and I know even when they make the mistakes, they still do.
Right.
Then just treat it like that. Treat it like, like I am not going to give myself to this person until he's proven that he's interested in me. And I need to see that. Like the words, you don't listen to a guy's words on the first few dates. No offense to guys. But you have to follow the actions.
Yeah.
Like if he's setting up dates and he's, taking you to a place that you mentioned you like seafood and he picked a seafood place and he's on time and he's acting like a gentleman and he's doing those things and he's done that consistently, then, like you can kind of make a good judgment based on that. But you can't go on the words. You can't be like, oh, like, he's telling you all the right things. Like he has to show you the things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I did this guy interviewed me on his channel and he was talking about, we got into kind of this subject and he was actually like, he was really like, because he was pretty religious and he was like, guys shouldn't even really be just doing this on the first date as well.
I agree too.
And I was like, I tried to argue with him a little bit and then I was like, nah, you know what? You're actually probably right. I mean, it really is probably better. Like, I can see that viewpoint. That makes a lot of sense because it's like, people do make the argument and say, okay, well, if you think it's damaging to women, then you're participating in the damage, which is a valid argument. That's pretty hard to counter. And then also just the idea that, you keep something that should be sacred and, because, how do you treat this thing, right? Do you treat it lightly or do you treat it as a serious thing?
Which I feel like when you are single, people do treat sex lightly. You know what I mean? Because it is different. Like you don't have that relationship to have that deep connection.
Right.
So I get where it is treated more lightly when people are single. I'm not saying they should.
That's the question.
I'm not saying they should, but I'm just saying I get where it is because, it's harder to find a good connection, especially as a woman. And then you and I have talked about this. I feel like women get confused where they're like, oh, but if I give him what he wants, he'll like me more, right? Like no woman is actively saying that, but in her mind, that's like, what she's thinking, he wants to have sex with me. Yeah. If I give him sex, then he'll like me more because I gave him what he wanted.
Well, and the thing about that is what I've told women in the past when I've coached on this is you don't have to sleep with the guy, but
just show him a boob.
That's just your tactics. But
Mom, Dad, I hope you're not watching this.
There you go. But no, you just, but show him that you want to. Mm-hmm. Right. But
like
then
flirt, be seductive, you know, without like going all the way.
Don't just straight shut him down. Because if you just straight shut him down, he's not going to come back. I mean, he's like, he's just going to feel rejected.
No, you. But if he feels flirty.
Like, oh, I really want to, I can't do it. Like you're tempting me, and then you don't, and then now he feels like. Well, one, you've dangled the carrot a little bit better because now it's like, you know, it's like you know when you're fishing cake. and you're trying to catch, you're not just like, all right, fish. Like you're not getting that word. Like you got to kind of like make sure it's following the worm, and
it's
then you
lure
get
for a reason. You lure him in.
Yeah, you don't just yank it away. The fish is like chase it. Then no, it's not going to happen. So that's kind of
depends on what kind of fish, but that's the fisherwoman in me. I'm just kidding, but I know what you mean though. Like you can still be flirty. You don't have to be like prudish or like rude about it, you know, like, no, I'm not gonna have sex with you, like, you know, especially if you like the guy, you should flirt, you should be like seductive, like, oh, like
make him think it might still happen tonight, but then you know it's not, but you know what I'm saying, like use your strategy. Like it's okay to like, again, people get all upset about this stuff. It's like, oh, it's manipulation, you're playing games, I don't like games, and it's like, no, love is a game. I'm sorry, there's strategy to it, and you gotta at the beginning. Now after you get into a relationship or you drop the BS, you get to a deeper level of intimacy, but you got to navigate it first, and that's okay to navigate.
You don't know what the truth is, but I will say this, and guys won't like this, and I'm not saying like I'm not gonna tell women to, you know, be rude to men, because that's not what it is,
right?
But you don't want to also be super clingy to him. You need him to come to you.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
So like, you know, I feel like women, they get really excited about a first date, and then they're like, when are we going? When are we going? And they're excited, and I get that excitement.
Right.
But you have to like hone it in and just be like very casual about it.
Yeah.
One of the reasons is like, you don't know who this guy really is. You went on one date. So you do kind of have to bring yourself back down to earth.
Yeah.
Two, it's all a part of the challenge part. And I'm not saying do this to like manipulate the game thing.
No.
But let him come to you.
Right.
That makes him more invested.
Right.
Just like after our first date, I had a great time. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wasn't blowing you up. I wasn't like, oh, hey, like, when are we hanging out? Like, what are we doing?
I got to see a boob. It was
like,
fun.
But you like texted me after, and you were like, I thought we had a great date. Like, are you not interested in me? And that hooked you in.
Right.
I was, you know, and I set the hook.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. I set the hook. And so I could reel you all the way into shore and take a picture and put it on my dating profile. But
because in my experience, I was like, damn, she didn't sleep with me on the first date. What's going on? I was like, are you not, like, you gave all the signals of being interested in me.
And women, that's what you want. You want to confuse them.
Exactly. Like, I was confused. I was like, wait a minute. It was like,
but again, be like, I was really interested in you, but I'm not giving you everything still.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what it is. No, and like, you have to have a guy come to you, because that makes him have to invest more.
Right.
And that's why I'm telling women to hold back. It's so you get that investment, so you can see how invested a man is in you, because if you pull back and he's also pulling back, that's not invested.
Yeah. No, exactly.
You know, like, I mean, he might be matching your energy, but you'll know, because I'm not telling you to pull back. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying be rude or manipulative where you like don't talk to him at all.
No.
But I'm just saying, don't like, and you can even text him like, hey, I had a great time last night, period. Don't be like, I had a great time last night. Like, you were just so handsome and I just think you're the one. And
no, he's
not that women will go that far, but like, give him some, but don't give him the whole mushy gushy because he hasn't earned it yet.
Right, exactly.
So that is what I would say.
Because we know women are capable of the mushy gushy. Like,
right. You don't just give that out
every
to everybody.
Every guy knows that that's there. It's gonna, you know, he's got to get it and want it.
But that's what really, I feel like, also makes a man invest more.
And that's why guys do say the clingy and needy thing is because a lot of times it's because it's just
like love bombing.
Exactly.
Like women are love bombing.
And then that's where,
and they get scared.
And then women get the wrong message, because in a relationship, you should be that clingy person. Like, it's not a bad trait.
But you haven't gotten to relationship part yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I think too, the withdrawing part, or like, you know, holding back some with men works too, because men are very afraid, and women are too, of someone coming off super strong and wanting commitment right away.
Right. Yeah.
And if you're like, I had a good time, but you're also like not, blowing him up.
Yeah.
He's not feeling like you're pressuring him for a relationship.
Right.
He feels like, I can take my time. I can figure this out. And it also gives you time as a woman to take your time and figure it out because
and date multiple guys.
Right. Yeah. Like, yes, I agree with that. Like a lot of women are like, I only date one guy at a time. Yeah. Date multiple guys because you're not sleeping with all of them.
And this message goes out for women in your 30s, 40s, 50s, because I'm coaching guys that are dating a lot of few women, and don't try to get exclusive or asking for commitment early on in the first date. You're just going to scare these guys away.
You can want a relationship.
Like, it's fine. And you can be serious about dating, but just, you don't need to say anything yet. Right. You see what he does. And if he's going in the wrong direction, then you can be like, look.
I think the problem is people think they're being transparent and they say all these things. Like you said, like they say like, oh, I don't sleep with somebody until 3 dates, or I'm looking for a serious relationship. So if you're but you're like, you can believe all of those things and not say them because it's not necessary. If you have a 3-date minimum, why does he need to know?
Look, well,
if anything, it's worse if he needs to know.
I'm playing Go Fish. I got a 5 in my hand. I don't need to tell you I got a 5 in my hand. I don't need to tell you. I can ask you, go fish or whatever, but you don't need to say the thing.
Right.
That's the thing. It's because then you're just there's no mystery. There's no.
And in my mind, if you are dating, you have to be open to a relationship because a one-night stand doesn't go on a date.
Right.
In my mind, you know what I mean?
It makes sense.
It's like you are somewhat serious about dating, so you don't need to be like, I want a relationship. And to be honest, like how you and I met, I never thought we would have a relationship. Yeah. And I was still open-minded. I wanted a relationship. Right. But I went on a date with you because I'm like, oh, well, he seems really interesting. I'll get to know him. And I feel like women too are often like, I don't want to go on dates. I don't want to waste my time. But it's like you get to know people and you get to know what you like and you get to have that experience. Just like we watch watching Love is Blind. Yeah. It's like you're learning about people and how they act and what you feel is compatible with you and whatnot. So dating also should be fun. It should be fun.
And just imagine if a guy went out on a date and he was like, because women say, I'm looking for a serious relationship or whatever. Imagine if a guy on the first date, he's like, I want sex.
Yeah.
Tonight.
You would leave.
You'd be gone. You'd be like, but you're doing the same thing. You're scaring, that would scare, the guy does want sex tonight. I guarantee you.
Well, and some guys do actually do that by being like, I bought you dinner.
Right. But that's uncouth. But I'm just saying, and it does scare you away. Right. So you're disgusted. Now you're like, okay, now I'm a prostitute. What the hell? This is ridiculous. Right. So it's the same thing. Then the guy feels like a prostitute when you say, I'm looking for commitment.
A relationship
a relationship for a gigolo. Or
are we going to get in trouble for saying that word?
I don't think so. I don't know. Who cares? But
we're supposed to keep it PG-ish.
Yeah. I mean, this one will, it's about sex. So,
that's true.
But anyway, that's just the message to ladies in their 30s, 40s, 50s. Just, I get why they say it because they're tired of playing games. They just want to be upfront and be honest and I get it. And it makes sense, except don't do it. You do have to play a game. You do have to at least,
I think it's safe to say if a woman's there, she's there for a relationship. So you don't need to say it as a woman. You don't need to be like, I'm looking for a serious relationship. Because you can also turn a hoe into a husband.
Yeah, just gotta do the right tactic. Get him confused, show him a boob, get him confused, flashbang. He's like, what the hell is going on? What happened here?
Exactly. Then he's too far in to know what even happened. And here we are. Then you get the ring, ladies. That's how it goes.
There you go. So we spent a lot on that topic, but there's some other things I wanted to break down on the sex talk. Maybe, we'll have to probably do some more episodes, but the exclusivity of sexual relations and thought and mind share and all of that thing. I think that's important to talk about, right? In the sense that should be, if you really want the relationship to be the most successful as it can and the most intimate, that your sexuality should be reserved completely, exclusively, entirely for your partner.
I just thought that was the norm. I just thought
people disagree with this.
Was how it's supposed to be. Like maybe I'm naive, and maybe more women think this way than men do, because I do feel like all women in some degree just want an amazing man that is amazing to them and treats them well and makes them feel safe and gives them orgasms, obviously. So it's like, if you have all that, I feel like women aren't going to go looking for more.
Well, not looking, see, and that's where I think this is important. We're not talking about cheating here necessarily. We're talking about like looking for other stimulus or things like, so for example, that same woman
need that.
Well, but I mean, that same woman will be like, okay, I read some romance novels and I've got my toys and that's fine. And again, I don't think there's anything like severely wrong with that. I don't, but I do think that it does make sense to save your entire mind share for in the sexual department to your partner. It's just like we were talking about like celebrity crushes and stuff like that. It's not just not saying it. It's not even having it. Not even in this. We talked about last episode about guys. I'm like, just turn your head. Don't look at the girl at the if you don't. And I guess this part of the conversation is more like, don't send your sexual energy in other places than your partner. Maybe that's the best way to say that, because there's plenty of people that are like, oh yeah, I don't care, if he does this, or if he looks at porn, or if he, whatever, and I do my own thing too, but we have good time together, and it's like, yeah, I get that, and yeah, maybe that works for some people, but would it work better, and would you have a better depth of intimacy in your relationship if your only sexual outlet was each other, and your only thoughts, and you direct? And again, you might say, oh, I can't control all my thoughts, and yeah, but you can rein them in. You can train your thoughts, and you can hone your thoughts. It's just like I said, the guy at the gym that looks over at the girl is like, he doesn't have to fixate. He can like notice and then be like, oh, train my thought back to the direction it needs to go. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, it just makes me feel like maybe they're not being open with their partner, or they're not as into their partner, because I want to say that if somebody's not fulfilling all your needs, if you're not at 100%, then you are going to look, or be more inclined to. But if you are fulfilled, then like there is no desire. Just like you said, like with the celebrity crushes. And I used to have a celebrity crush before you came along, and it literally just went away, because you are well beyond that, and you're here and you're all about me, and like, what more could I want? Like, there is nothing else I want. Yeah. So I don't know. It's harder for me to like think about, because it just makes sense to me. Like, why would you? I used this analogy the other day. Why would you want a banquet meal from the frozen section of the grocery store when you're at your favorite restaurant that's like the best experience and the best food you've ever had? Yeah. Like, you wouldn't. Like, you wouldn't even look that way. Like, you wouldn't even think, it's not even on your radar.
But I think for a lot of people, it's not it's not the best experience.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, they could talk to their partner to, get on the same page. Or
even
like,
if you're into something weird. Even if you're into something weird, talk, don't handle it yourself. Like, talk to your partner and figure it out between the two of you, because that's a better
Well, it kind of separates you guys in a way. Yeah. Even though it might not feel like it, but if you're having sexual experiences with your partner and then separate sexual experiences by yourself or whatever, like that feels kind of double life to me or something. Like, why aren't you fully invested in here and fully like present here, and you're off doing these other things?
Right. Yeah. And some people say different libidos and mismatching, but I still think that you can still figure out it's better to figure out a solution that.
Yeah. But I would say even if that's the case, like, then you should still be thinking about your partner while you're doing extra things, if that's what you need.
Or you can do in the presence, but
which would, I feel like, would make it better.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And I feel like they should think that, but I don't know.
Yeah. But I think it really comes down to that idea of like making all of your sexual energy be focused at your partner, whether it be in the physicality sense, in the mental sense, in whatever sense that it is all directed there. And I think that's the important thing about it. So
I feel like I don't have a lot to add because I feel like that's just a given thing.
Yeah, but it's not even just given for all women too. Because I'll say that.
I mean, I get the book thing because you're right. I think the book would be the only thing that I could think of that where women are having this. Because even if you're reading something, like sure, maybe a small majority are thinking of that situation with her husband instead of the guy in the book. But some women are reading that and they're thinking about the character in the book doing the things to them, and that's some other person. And I'm not saying that that's like cheating.
No.
But I mean, we did go back to like, is those things cheating or whatever? But it's still like you're deviating, even if it's mentally.
Right. And you're training your brain. In a way, like you're training your sexual response too, which is, I think, is important. Like you want your sexual response to be cued into your partner only, which is good.
Well, how do you think people could do that? Like that don't do it?
By making sure that all of the energy is focused, like so that you don't.
So you'd say there like is no porn and there is no like all of that stuff, or
because if that's your only outlet,
doing things on your own, like include your partner if that's like the case. Like don't ever have it as like you're totally alone doing these things is what you're saying?
Yeah, because if that's your only outlet, then you will train your system to like, because some people might struggle with that at first, but then if they do that, they will train their system to only have that response in that. Okay, like the human sexuality, like the training of that system of those circuits and the response it's a very trainable system. So it responds to what you feed it.
Right.
And that's also why like some of the extreme stuff where people are constantly looking for novelty and they get deeper and deeper until they get to some really messed
crazy
up stuff.
Yeah.
And then the next step is for them to try and act it out in life because they can't get any more jollies from the, so that's why it's you got to train it the right direction. So,
right. Well, and I think it also brings you closer to your partner if you're all about them. Like it enhances your connection, it enhances your intimacy, it enhances the experience to this like ultimate connecting level, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree.
What couple doesn't want that? And if you don't, then you might need to think about other things.
Well, let's talk about the experience then. I was going to give some tips. I mean, how to make things better, I think, in a relationship on the sexual side. Like I can tell, some things that guys can do.
Tips.
Okay, I'll give the tips for the guys. But so I mean, I would say that the biggest thing, like if you just want to be good in bed as a guy and please your partner the most, is it's not all kinds of like mechanical. It's not figuring out the technique or the, or whatever. I'm not going to make the motions because, this already is an extreme episode, but it's not figuring out the technical details of which buttons to push and how to push them and what frequency and, that's not at all. I mean, that's a very small part, right? The biggest thing for guys to recognize is that it's actually slowing down, being very slow and taking a lot of time, teasing, basically.
Setting the mood, setting the tone.
Right. It's a very slow process, taking a very long time to get from the northern colonies to the southern colonies, Okay. And visit, the Bible Belt along the way. It's like, you gotta pay some, camp out there for a little bit too. But that's the thing. It's like it's taking a very long time so that anticipation is built. Because when anticipation is built very high, then it doesn't take much to to break the dam.
True.
So if you're just trying to break the dam and you just go straight to trying to break the dam, it's not. I'm not saying that you can't eventually break that dam, but you're going to get tired yourself out. Like it's so much easier if you don't rush the process. I think that, what I'm saying? It's like, so that's the key thing. It's counterintuitive to what a lot of guys would think.
I would give guys even a simpler tip.
Okay.
And I think if a guy just cares about a woman's pleasure, that will go so far for them. Like if they show that they care, if they do care.
Yeah.
Like which is also what you're saying. Like if you go slow, you do care. If you go fast, you're like, I'm just trying to get, mine and then be done.
Well, I think that there are a lot of guys that care too much. And so then it becomes pressure. And then they're like, I got to make this thing happen. I got to break the dam, and they're like, am I doing a good job?
Well, I'm not talking to those guys then if they do care. But I feel like a lot of women feel like men don't care what they're going through or like care to do stuff to them or make it an experience like you're saying, which I know is why you're giving them this tip.
Right,
but
exactly.
I think the like simplified version is if they show that they care, which they should care.
Right.
Like if you're having sex with a woman and you don't care about her experience in this, you should not be doing that. Like you're using her, whatever,
right.
Exactly. That's not going to be a good experience for her.
Right.
And it should be a good experience for both of the people.
Right. Yeah.
So that is just what I would add in, like the simplified version.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes that's the issue, and
right.
And sometimes it could be that you're being too. But then a lot of times the being too eager becomes an ego thing. It's not really about the other person; it's about you, isn't it? It's like it's like you're trying to get your ego boosted.
True.
And then you're gonna get the shoulder tap.
The shoulder tap.
The nice try, buddy. Time to come up here. Like you're done. You're tapped out. That's so. But I think that's really the biggest thing that would make the biggest difference. I think for.
Yeah, and I would say the same for women, that they should care too. But I feel like women typically do care more in that situation because it's more connected.
I'm saying to slow down.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that means you care because you're taking the time.
It does. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, guys do need to slow down. They get a little don't they want to enjoy it too? Draw out the experience.
Well, that's the thing is like it should always be thought in that sense that it is. There's really. I'm not saying that there is never ever the time and place for a quickie, but that's like a very rare, it is a process that you need to fully commit to that process.
Right.
Right. So it's like, you get on an airplane, you're going to travel somewhere. You just don't get on the airplane. You got to go, you got to go through security. You got to
it's an experience. Yeah. It's not like just the motions.
Right. Exactly.
Of going through it.
Yeah.
You don't have any other tips? Some tips.
We could get into graphic tips. You want to get into
No.
I would say that is going to constitute it's so simple.
If they want graphic tips, they should join your Bulldog.
Yeah, they can join them. Yeah, I got some real, but it really does. The mechanical stuff is not as important as that, because I'm telling you, it doesn't seem like that would make that much of a difference. And I can tell you it, and you can even know that that's what's going to happen, and it will still make that much of a difference, because it is it's just the way humans are wired. Is anticipation is the key. So
true.
Yeah. And you can talk about what you're going to do. I guess that's some of the tips is too. You could get good at texting and talking about what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Precisely. Because remember, women's mind or women's biggest sexual organ is her brain. So
that's true.
Turn that switch on.
Yeah. And I guess women should invest too in the experience. I know that sometimes they also get into the habit of just oh, let's get this over with or something. But you should be enjoying this experience.
Right.
You should, what can you bring to up this, or what can you tell your partner to enhance the experience? Because she could tell him, just like you just said, to slow down and
right.
Get me
some
worked up and
good.
Stuff like that. Because it can be a very exhilarating experience for a woman. It should not be just something to do.
Yeah. Guys are good at getting feedback and taking feedback. A lot of women don't want to give feedback. They're afraid of hurting the ego
or
to
they
some
just
degree.
Want him to know.
And definitely don't fake. You're just doing everybody a disservice if you fake.
Don't ever do that.
Don't fake the orgasms, because you're just doing everybody. You're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing the guy a disservice. You're doing the next woman a disservice. You're doing everybody down the chain a disservice. That's the worst. Don't do that.
That's true. Just be
yeah.
I gotta go.
Just be honest.
It wasn't the best.
Yeah, but then give some tips for improvement, and it's so. And then I guess I would say for guys too. of the actual act. But just an important thing is that a lot of guys that I coach, one of the struggles that they have, well, in a relationship, a lot of times the whole issue of sex becomes something that a woman gives to the guy, right? Which is not good.
Right.
It shouldn't, and she should never ever use it as a punishment or a threat or a withholding sex. No one should ever use it, but women more so would use this,
Right.
So that should never be the case.
That's because they're not using it as the experience. They're using it as this like pawn at that point.
Right. And if it's something that like, it's like only one person enjoys, that's a problem in itself.
Right.
But never, ever, if you make it transactional where it's like, or no bargain for it, like if you do this, then I'll do this.
Right.
It shouldn't be like you should want to do the thing.
Right.
Not because you earned the thing. That's not, it's,
that doesn't make it.
A little extra enthusiasm as a reward is a fine thing. But for guys, they need to indicate what they want. Because what a lot of guys will do is not communicate, and they'll mask their desires because they're afraid of their own sexual desires. A lot of men are. They're afraid to express them because they're afraid of rejection. And so they will do the whole like bump up, against the back in the bed, or like, hint at it, or like poke or whatever. Like that's just, it's the little boy vibes, right? It's like, like you're a man, take her, like show the real intent. Like, if you're not going to actually just take her, and I don't mean, obviously I don't need to put a disclaimer on like the limits of that. But what I'm saying is like, if you're not going to like turn around and show her and, kiss her and show her that that's what you're going for, then say it. Then say, this is what I want to do, or this is what I want to, not hinting at it and then getting upset and then, and getting,
turn over.
Turn over.
Pull the covers off.
Yeah, it's not good. And that's why a lot of times guys get the response of, I've got a headache. Well, because you haven't, like, it's the female sexual responsive system, is responsive. That's the men's is initiative, right? So, if you're getting the I got a headache response as a guy, then it's because you're not churning up those energies. She's not, you're not doing the thing that is getting her into the mood, which is not, 5 minutes before, but is throughout the day, the romance, the thing that puts it on her mind. You didn't get that going, you know what I mean? Or you're being a pussy, you're being passive, and you're just like trying to push things without having to say it, like not put yourself out there. If you just say, this is what I want, right, then that's, you usually don't get the I've got a headache response.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you're always going to get it, but it just means that, if you're getting that I've got a headache response, it's you're doing something wrong.
I agree.
Anything else to add?
I don't think so, unless you can think of something.
I don't think so.
So
I think that's
thing of the week.
Yeah, our thing of the week.
That was hard because last week we had a talk about a TikTok.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think that's the only.
That wasn't even that bad.
No.
I mean, like, it was the girl on TikTok who's talking about how her husband like was a pathological liar or something, and I didn't even watch the full thing. And I was talking to John about it, and he was like, this isn't true, or, like, I don't think this is true. She's making so much money, which I'm sure she is making a lot of money.
Oh, yeah, she's making money now.
Like,
she's going to get a
there are all
Netflix
these
deal now.
10-minute videos that have so many views and stuff. But, like, I felt like it wasn't fair to, like, judge because I didn't know the full story yet. And I understood your side that she is making a lot of money, and I always agreed that that's the case. But I just like kind of got in my old kind of defensive mode and was like, like, you don't know. And because I just felt like you were saying that what she was saying isn't true, but you were just stating that you didn't believe it. And so that made you feel disrespected in a certain type of way. And I didn't mean to do that. I just, didn't even get to finish her thing. And I didn't really have a full picture of it. And I just felt like you were kind of dismissing it, which you weren't. You were just stating your opinion. But
and that's where I messed up, was that like, and I never actually even said this to you because it was such a small thing that it wasn't, but I'll say it now, is that I messed up in not realizing that, and I should know this, it doesn't matter why, if it's silly that she's upset that you don't believe this girl on TikTok, or you think that she might be making up some of the story. But if your response to that upsets her, then that matters, that she's upset about that thing. It's not a big deal. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so I didn't recognize that, because I got back into the mode of guy of like, this doesn't make sense. Why would you care about if I believe some girl on TikTok? Which is the logical, but that doesn't invalidate your feelings about it. And that's where I goofed, is because I got back into the logical of like, well, it doesn't make sense for her to feel this way, which is always the wrong thing for a guy to do. It's like, it doesn't have to make sense for her to feel this way. She feels this way, and it matters that she feels this way, right? So,
well, it stemmed more from a deeper thing too, that like you weren't doing, but I think it just triggered me in that moment, that like this woman was giving her experience, and a lot of times men don't validate a woman's experience. And I'm not saying that that's not what you were doing, because you were just giving your opinion about it, and you weren't disrespectful about what you were saying.
Right.
But it just made me think about all the ways that women, you know, don't get believed a lot of the time for the things that they say. Not always, but, you know, certain things. And I'm not saying there aren't women out there who fabricate things to try to stir up problems too, or make a bunch of money. But it's just like, for the people who aren't doing that and they don't get believed, it's like, it's hurtful, you know? And like, not that you did that, but it just like triggered that emotional response in me.
Right. And what should have mattered to me is that you feel that way, and that's okay. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be offensive to me that you feel that way, right? It's like, it doesn't have to make sense to me, you know what I'm saying? So, but it's hard, you know, it's something that you always have to work on as a guy to.
But it's crazy to even bring this up.
No, because it's so small.
10 minutes.
Yeah, it was like 10. Yeah, but I mean, we need something to talk about,
compared to our
like
12-hour conversations we've had before.
Yeah,
but.
I mean, we could talk about, you know, sex, but we got to keep this one, you know, PG-17, NC-17. You know, we're gonna get, you know, so
yeah, we're gonna mark it on YouTube.
Yeah. All right. I guess that's it. See you next time.
Through every